Hey guys, so Enigma will be coming in several days, and this video I will explain about his kit and if you should pull for him or not. So first of all, Enigma is a Dynamo unit, okay? But he can work outside of Dynamo as a sustain. So he's pretty good, but here we have to understand about Dynamo, and his main mechanics actually revolve around this buff known as Ciphertext. So from his precognition, when entering battle, grant all allies 10 stack of Ciphertext and grant self 10 stack of Dynamo. Insight 3 will then increase the maximum stack limit of Dynamo for all allies by 20. So most of the Dynamo character has about 30. So now with Enigma, it can goes up to 50. At the end of each round, transfer up to 10 stack of Dynamo plus Ciphertext into the pulsing field. So Ciphertext is because if you read the description at the bottom, when transferring into pulsing field, grant pulsing field additional Dynamo equal to the number of own Ciphertext, and it can stack up to 5 stacks. So it's kind of weird that you see his precognition, he grant 10 stacks of Ciphertext to all the allies, but the maximum Ciphertext is only 5 stacks. Well, that depends on how many Dynamo units is in or on the field, because with additional Dynamo characters, you can get a higher max limit of Ciphertext. At base, it's 5. Okay, if you have Enigma only, meaning there's no other Dynamo character in the team, then the max limit increased by 1. So instead of 5, you actually have 6. Now, if you bring another Dynamo character, it goes up to 7. And if there are at least 3 Dynamo units, then you can get the 10 max stacks for Ciphertext, which means the precognition giving 10 stack of Ciphertext actually needs 3 Dynamo character to fully make use of it. Or else it's fine, you will still get the 6 stacks or 7 stacks depending on Dynamo unit that you have in the field. And then one more thing is Dynamo. He can transfer 10 Dynamo every round. So at least during the charging phase, as in charging the pulsing field, you want to make sure that he can transfer those Dynamos. So skill 1 and skill 2 will grant him 10 stack of Dynamo, and that already maxed out, right? Apart from that, he also grant or gain 5 stack of Dynamo when he do his follow-up attack, which is closed loop principles. So during the charging up phase of pulsing field, is very good if you can use skill 1, because skill 1 instantly give 10 stack of Dynamo, and skill 1 also grant your ally with 3 stack of Ciphertext, and that equates to 12 Dynamo. Alright, I will explain this a little bit more, but yes, basically his Dynamo management is very simple. You don't have to worry too much about it. Now, coming into the next part, which is Ciphertext itself, apart from helping in terms of granting Dynamo to pulsing field, Ciphertext also provide a lot of buff. In addition to that, your character having more Dynamo will also gain more buffs. So from his amplified surge, which means this only happens when pulsing field is at level 3. So at the start of the round, grant all allies 3 stack of Ciphertext, and when the ally attacks, for each stack of Dynamo, it will grant 0.4% of incantation might. So if they have 10 stack of Dynamo, 4% incantation might. If it's a reality damage character that attacks, then each stack of Dynamo will deal additional 6% relative damage. So again, 10 stack means 60% relative damage. So unit like Lucy can take advantage of this and do more damage. However, when mental damage character attack, then each stack of Dynamo grants additional 0.4% incantation might. So you add that together, you get 0.8% incantation might. So if you have 10 stack of Dynamo, that is 8% incantation might. So this is good for Broom and Corvus. Alright? As for his ultimate, it doesn't count towards the ally spell dock. So if you have a full spell dock and you get 5 Moxie, the ultimate will still be generated. So the ultimate is a self buff Gain Cipher machine. This lasts for 2 rounds, so you want to use it at the first round, the first skill, when pulsing field hits level 3. It will dispel all allies, stats down, negative status, and control effect, and grant self 5 stacks of loop chain. I will talk about loop chain later, okay? So basically, the ultimate cleanses and give you Cypher Machine. So Cypher Machine is additional buff. Grant all allies 20% crit damage. So, which is really why you want to use it when the pulsing field is at level 3. If you use it one turn earlier, then by the second round when pulsing field is at level 3, you may not have this buff already. And for every 1 stack of Ciphertext previously removed, so in the previous round, you funnel 3 Ciphertext into the pulsing field, and in the next round, now you use the ultimate, so it's considered previously how many that you remove, okay? For each stack removed, you will gain additional 2% damage bonus up to 30 stack count. Okay, clear the remove Ciphertext tally after taking effect. So if you have several rounds that you did not cast his ultimate, you keep getting Ciphertext keep going into the pulsing field, then you will get more and more stacks. That can be converted to damage bonus. So how do we want to get as many Ciphertext as we can? Because we know now with more Ciphertext, we can do more damage. First of all, skill 1, Infinite Translation. It deals 200% relative damage, 300% or 500% at higher rank, and grant allies, all allies, 3, 4, or 5 stack of Ciphertext. And self will get 10 stack of Dynamo. So assume here if you have 4 allies and then 3 stack of Ciphertext per ally, that is 12 Ciphertext in total, so they can transfer 12 Dynamo into the pulsing field. And apart from that, from closed loop principle, which is his follow-up attack, is a mass attack, deal 200% relative damage to all enemies, and then grant all allied 5 stacks of Ciphertext. Okay, and after attacking, grant 1 Moxie and 5 stacks of Dynamo. So closed loop principle, you can actually cast it every round, so it's for sure that you will get this 5 stack of Ciphertext. But if we can cast more closed loop principle, then we can get more Ciphertext and we can get more damage bonus, also charge pulsing field faster, and all those good stuff. So how do we actually cast more closed loop principle? Here, there's another buff called loop chain. We want to get as many loop chain as we can. Maximum is 9 stacks, and every 5 stacks of loop chain, Enigma will then cast closed loop principle. And how do we get loop chain? First, if an ally actively attacks, so here you assume you have 4 AP, so 4 active attacks. Okay, if you have like Charon, when he uses ultimate that doesn't consume AP, that is additional. Okay, additional loop chain that you can get. If the enemy attack your team very frequently, each time will be a loop chain. And finally, at the end of the round, you get another loop chain. So even if the enemy doesn't attack you, you use 4 AP to do 4 active attacks. Buff doesn't count, right? It has to be active attacks. Then you get 1 more. In that case, you will be able to cast loop chain. So in practice, a few of the cards that you cast may not actually be an attack card. Okay, so here you may not get that many loop chain per round if you are casting a lot of buff, counter, channeling skills. All those doesn't actively affect the enemy. So overall, it still depends if the enemy attack more often for you to guarantee 1 closed loop principle per round. And one more thing is his ultimate. Okay, he will trigger it as well since alt grant 5 stack of loop chain. So means after he uses ultimate, he will definitely cast closed loop principle. So if you have already several stack of loop chain, now you use ultimate, you cast it, then you do a few more attack, you may cast it again. So in one round, you may end up triggering closed loop principle twice. Now that we understand his buff and Dynamo aspect of his kit, so let us talk about Bastion. He is a sustained unit, but he doesn't cast shield, he doesn't heal, he has his own mechanics, and it is called Bastion. So if already holding Bastion, first his Bastion can stack onto his existing Bastion, with stack not exceeding Enigma's attack times 1250%. Compared to shield, most shield is like 600 or 750% of the caster's attack. So Enigma is more, but the thing is Bastion is only on him, not your allies. Your allies will not have Bastion. The Bastion is on him, but all damage received by the allies will be directed to Bastion, okay? And apart from that, when having Bastion, all allies can share 4 instances of control immunity per round. So again, Bastion absorbs damage dealt to all allies when 1, 2, 3, or 4 allies or more allies are simultaneously attacked. Each point of Bastion can absorb 1, 1.2, 1.5, or 1.8 point of damage. So allies' HP will not reduce as long as you have Bastion, but once the Bastion is gone, then your HP will be affected. It's just like a shield, okay? And Bastion cannot coexist with shield, so you can't stack shield and Bastion together. Alright, here I show you some calculations. So what happens if an enemy does 1000 damage on one ally, then 1000 of Bastion value will be removed. If enemy does 1000 damage on 2 allies, then instead of 2000, it will be 1670 because the absorption is 1.2 instead of 1, right? So it reduces the amount of damage that is being converted and deducted from Bastion. If the enemy does 1000 damage against 3 allies, so which means in total, our team received 3000 damage, but again, divide by 1.5, we actually receive only 2000 damage, and that is deducted from Bastion. And finally, if enemy does 1000 damage on 4 allies, 2,220 of Bastion value is removed. Okay, apart from that, if Enigma has Bastion, then he will also grant all allies 30% damage taken reduction. And that lasts for 2 rounds, but basically if you have Bastion every round, then this is forever. How to get Bastion? To be honest, it is quite passive. When entering battle, he will grant Bastion equals 280% of self-attack, okay, on himself. And then every time he do his follow attack, he will also cast another Bastion that is also 280% of self-attack. If you need more Bastion, then you can use skill 2, Meshing Mind, which helps to stack another layer of Bastion, another 280% of self-attack. And again, this can stack, okay, up to 1250% of Enigma's attack. So whatever you do, increase his attack stat as much as you can. For Moxie and Rotation, when entering battle, he gets 3 Moxie. So closed loop principle after attacking will gain 1 Moxie. So S1 to give ally more Ciphertext, and then trigger closed loop principle, then he will get 5 Moxie in round 1. Now in round 2, we can use his ultimate. Okay, he will get 2 Moxie because he triggered closed loop principle once, and then from the attacks that you do, the enemy attacking your party, and then at the end of the round, if you cast another closed loop principle, then you will get 1 more Moxie. So you get 2 Moxie in round 2. In round 3, you can get 1 more Moxie. So this returns back, puts him back into the initial state. Like when he start the battle, he have 3 Moxie. So basically from there onward, you can just repeat. You may not want to use S1 and you want to use S2 instead if you know the enemy is going to hit really hard and may kill your party. So do use S2 as necessary. Also, if the enemy doesn't attack you that much, you may not have enough Moxie, so you want to use S1 or S2 if you want to keep the rotation, right? Now, if you want him to be a little bit more passive and you are playing a 4-round rotation, the thing is that he makes the Dynamo unit 3 rounds, but if let's say you are only using him and Charon, only 2 unit, then it might still be a 4-round rotation. And in that case, his gameplay actually becomes a little bit more passive, but again, relying on how many loop chain that you can get. If you can get up to 5 loot chain every round. Then you don't have to worry about it. You will be able to get 1 Moxie every round. And all you need to do is cast his ultimate when Pulsing Field hits level 3. Or else, just use S1 or S2 in any of those rounds. Round 1 to round 4. For his teammate, definitely the Dynamo character. So he is the sustain, then you have the DPS and you have the support. Broom function as both DPS and support. So I put her in both categories. So what you want to do here is pick 1 DPS and then pick 2 support. So you can go like Broom, Charon, Enigma, Auric. Or you can go Lucy, Auric, Charon, Enigma. Or you can go Corvus, Broom, Charon, Enigma. Right? So very flexible. And now for non-Dynamo team, alright, because this Dynamo characters, they actually boost up a lot of, they do provide outmind and things like that. So it actually helps out the out team. So what you can do is you bring Enigma as a sustain and then you bring 1 more support. Right? Most of you will probably bring Charon. But as long as you have just another one of it, if you have another 2, it's even better. So like if you are using Anjo Nala, Broom, Charon, and Enigma, you can do that. Okay? Or if you're using with Recoleta, then you can have Recoleta, maybe another out support for Recoleta, or even Pickles, right, behind Recoleta. As Pickle boosts mineral units, then another 2 units left, you can have Sustain, Enigma, and another Dynamo support. Or else you can just bring 2 more Dynamo support plus Enigma plus Recoleta. And that will be a very strong team. For his Psychube, the Riddle's Limit, okay, I would definitely use this for him as it also have damage taken decrease, 4%, 8%. Very useful if the enemy will be hitting the team like really hard. And at the end of the round, if user have funneled Dynamo into Pulsing Field at least once, then increase damage dealt for all allies by 2 to 4% up to 3 stacks. So if you have it A5, that is 12%. Another Psychube that you can use is the third commitment, which is Loperas. So make sure that he is in the first position in the Dynamo team if you're using the Psychube, okay? So this Psychube, you can't trigger the first part of it, which is the one that is related to bullet, but the second part, which has the incantation might 6 to 12% and ultimate might 6 to 12%, that works and is quite useful for the Dynamo team. So if you don't want to invest on this Psychube or you have this Psychube at A5, then you can use it. As for Portrait, he is very much self-sufficient even at P0, so you don't technically need to get his Portrait. But if you want to, level 1, increase his buff, okay, Cypher Machine to 3 rounds. So if you're doing a 3-round rotation, basically you won't have a downtime for Cypher Machine at all. But the thing is that Dynamo always have this downtime where you don't do much damage and then you are funneling Dynamo into the Pulsing Field. So it doesn't really seem that necessary for you to get P1. Okay, P0 is already pretty good. Then P2 is basically more buffs. P3 as well. Okay, more buff. That for the Ciphertext, instead of 2%, it is now 2.8%. So 2 and 3 is just to make his buffs better. P4 is for his sustain capability. So instead of 280%, now his Bastion increased to 340% every time it is being applied, okay, or every time it is casted. Bastion effect increased to Enigma's attack. This is from his S2 to 340, 510 to 850%. But still, the maximum is still 1250%. P4 doesn't increase that value. And for P5, while in Pulsing Field level 3, when all allies attack, each stack of Dynamo grants 0.6 incantation might from 0.4 to 0.6. And for reality damage from 6%, now it is 8%. So it's just more damage, okay? Yeah, so overall, definitely you can enjoy his kit very well even at P0. And finally, should you pull? Definitely. I think you definitely should pull for Enigma. There's a lot of Dynamo units going about right now. And the out unit coming in also can make use of this Dynamo supports like Recoleta, and later on there are more characters that can make use of this. So definitely you should pull for him. If you don't have other Dynamo characters right now, don't worry about it. I think it's still good that you pull for him, because like I say, there's a lot of Dynamo characters. Eventually you will have one of them. And I think Charon might appear in 3.6. So you will be able to pull for Charon as well. And Charon Enigma creates a very, very strong duo that can support a lot of teams. Alright, so that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.